Welcome to The Explainer. Look, if you've been paying any attention to the tech industry lately, you know we're living through one of the most turbulent, kind of confusing periods in modern hiring history. We're seeing massive, industry-shaping shifts happening not over decades, but literally over mere months. So today, we're going to unpack the 2026 tech job market. It's a landscape defined by intense polarization, incredibly high-stakes investments, and quite frankly, a complete redefinition of what it actually means to be a top-tier tech professional. Now, consider this absolutely wild paradox. How is it mathematically possible for AI job postings to skyrocket by 143% while simultaneously over 73,000 tech jobs are just wiped off the map? Okay, let's dive into this because I promise you, this isn't just some statistical glitch. It's a fundamental rewiring of how companies value human capital, and understanding it is absolutely crucial for navigating what's coming next. Section 1. The 2026 Tech Job Paradox. To really wrap our heads around the extreme polarization tearing through the industry right now, we have to look closely at the extremes. That 143% figure, yeah, it's staggering. Year over year in 2025, AI engineer job postings literally exploded, making it the fastest growing title in the US. Organizations are just rushing to integrate generative AI, agentic systems, and large language models right into their core operations. So naturally, the demand for people who can actually build and orchestrate these complex systems is completely through the roof. But then, bam, we get this massive visual whiplash. At the exact same time, more than 73,000 tech roles have already been eliminated in 2026 alone. Entire departments are just being hollowed out. If you're a professional watching this, it probably feels chaotic, right? It feels like the ground is shifting right beneath your feet. But believe it or not, there is a distinct logic to all this chaos. Tech journalist Nobinston Lobo hit the nail on the head here. He calls what we're watching a market sorting event. Companies aren't just blindly cutting costs, they're reallocating massive budgets. They're aggressively shrinking junior roles and automating those traditional repetitive workflows, while intensely hiring for the very top of the stack. Simply put, they are cutting headcount at the bottom so they can afford the absolute premium talent at the top. Moving on to Section 2, meet the new elite. And this brilliantly illustrates a massive mindset shift happening in boardrooms right now. According to the latest market data, hiring has shifted away from broad, sweeping team expansion to highly targeted capability acquisition. Companies don't want to hire 5 average engineers anymore. They want to hire one elite architect who can deliver a complete end-to-end AI solution. Top-tier talent is incredibly scarce, and organizations know for sure that failing to move decisively puts their entire innovation pipeline at massive risk. Let's break down these staggering numbers from the Method 2026 Salary Guide. It perfectly demonstrates the new pinnacle of tech compensation. We're seeing chief data officers commanding up to $400,000. AI architects and enterprise architects, they're easily pulling in base salaries well over $200,000 to $250,000. And remember, these aren't just your standard developers. These are strategic leaders who bridge the gap between really complex AI infrastructure and actual measurable business outcomes. But hey, it's not just the C-suite cashing in. Specialized technical roles that barely even existed 2 years ago are exploding. Take RAG engineers, retrieval augmented generation engineers. They're pulling between $110K and $180K over in the UK. Why? Well, because they solve the multi-million-dollar problem of AI hallucination. By combining AI systems with trusted proprietary enterprise data, they guarantee accuracy in highly regulated fields like healthcare and finance. Right now, they are arguably some of the most wanted human beings on Earth. Which brings us to Section 3, the cost of AI hubris. Because let's be real, adopting AI isn't some automatic silver bullet. And this data point from Forrester, it should be a massive wake-up call for executives. 55% of employers already regret their AI-attributed layoffs. They rush to cut their human workforce, betting on the future promises of AI capabilities that, quite frankly, just don't exist yet in a proven enterprise-ready state. They bought the hype, fired the staff, and now they're paying the price in serious operational failures. Now, what's really interesting about this cautionary tale, a company called Clara, is how it perfectly humanizes the severe consequences of misjudging AI's current maturity. They replaced 700 employees with AI. The immediate result? Service quality completely plummeted. Customers revolted. Complaints skyrocketed, and ultimately, the whole company was forced to retire. It just goes to show you cannot simply plug in an LLM and expect it to magically replace human operational nuance.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds into high-demand tech salaries revealed.
To stabilize all this chaos, a totally new category of roles is emerging. Data from the IBM Institute for Business Value shows a massive spike in organizations appointing a chief AI officer, jumping from 10% to 26% in just the last couple of years. Why the sudden rush? Because AI isn't just a fun tech tool, it's a massive regulatory and security risk. Companies desperately need executives who can handle these high-risk obligations, ensure transparency, and actually translate strict policies into technical testing. But if you're aiming for this path, you've got to understand the stark difference in how these roles are actually deployed. On one hand, you have the strategy chief AI officer. This is the real deal. You've got actual budgetary authority, a cross-functional mandate, and a real seat at the executive table. Then you have the compliance chief AI officer. While still very lucrative, this is essentially a documentation anchor. It's a role designed to tick regulatory boxes without giving you any real strategic influence over the company's direction. And right in the midst of all this new creation, here's a twist almost nobody saw coming a few years ago. The most vulnerable role right now? The traditional data scientist. Yeah, you heard that right. The very workflows that used to define this elite title, exploratory data analysis, basic model construction, routine reporting, they are being rapidly automated by advanced generative AI. Professionals thriving in this domain must urgently pivot and upskill, or they genuinely risk their entire career becoming obsolete. Finally, Section 5, future-proofing your career. So the crucial point is this. Understanding the data is only half the battle. Surviving this market flux requires a master key called the capability trajectory. You can no longer plan your career around a static job title. Titles are dead. An LLM ops role today requires collaborating across 5 different departments, handling security, governance, and infrastructure all at once. You have to focus entirely on building a portfolio of capabilities that AI simply cannot absorb. So what exactly are those unautomatable skills? We're talking about judgment, deep domain context, and cross-functional translation, the ability to sit between an engineering team and a business stakeholder, and seamlessly translate technical capabilities into a winning commercial strategy. This is exactly what the top-tier, highest-paid engineers are building their foundations on right now. The AI writes the code, the human provides the context and the judgment. Okay, so how do you actually stay ahead when the landscape is shifting every 6 months? Experts advise that you literally have to become your own market researcher. Monitor job descriptions at scale, daily, to see what the industry is actually signaling before it goes mainstream. Analyze developer ecosystems like GitHub repositories. Track platforms like Hugging Face. You need to catch the technological wave months before it ever reaches a university curriculum or some official certification. The tech industry is completely resetting, guys, and the old rules of career progression are just gone. As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to really ask yourself, are you stubbornly planning for a job title that might be automated by next year, or are you actively building a resilient capability trajectory? Think about how you're investing your time and learning right now. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.